To create the benches for the kitchen in here, we're going to be using a tool called an in-place family model. And you can see that I'm referring to the plan, but also you've got some hand-drawn sketches where you've got some more specific dimensions. So I'll be expecting that you refer to that. I'm just taking you through how to create, at the moment, just this bench and this bench. And I'm going to do them in two slightly different ways just to show you what your options are. So, popping into my floor plan, the first thing that we need to think about is the fact that this is a model, a 3D model, and we're using a simple extrusion to create it. So whenever I'm doing that, I need to think about something called a work plane, and we'll be getting into more specifics of what work planes do later on. For the moment, what you need to remember is that everything we're about to do relates to the work plane, and at the moment the work plane, you can see here's our word up here, but our work plane by default when we draw in plan view is the ground floor. So if I come up to the Architecture tab, I'm at Component, and I select Model in Place, you can see that I go into a command. Now the very first thing I need to do is to create or nominate what the category is. And the reason why this is very important is because later on we'll be turning information on and off. If you were doing a commercial fit out, you would have a furniture category. So you might have your joinery, your solid joinery, and you certainly don't want to turn off the wrong bit of information. So casework is what we call joinery. So that's just the American terminology. I'm going to give it a name, kitchen bench back. That one's not real important. We don't really use that name again. Now up here are our modelling tools. 99 times out of 100, you're only going to need this pure extrusion, solid extrusion. Now I'm ready to start. So I'm now doing an extrusion within my family. And what that means is that I can have a number of 3D extrusions or 3D models within the one family. So that just takes a little bit to get used to. I'm using my rectangle tool because it's efficient. And I'm starting up in my top corner. And I'm bringing it down. You can see it goes blue when something's selected, so you can see it magnetizes to that wall. And then I'll just pop back into here and tell that back bench it's 600 wide, the standard width for a kitchen bench top. So that's simple enough. So what we've got is a 2D profile, a closed loop is what REVIT refers to it as. So that means one line between each vertex or corner, no overlapping, no gaps, no lines over lines. Otherwise it just won't physically let you do it. It'll go orange where the problem is and you won't be able to press your green tick and get out of it. Now over here in our properties we've got a couple of choices. Extrusion start is where does the extrusion start in relationship to the work plane, and you can see currently our work plane is the ground floor. So for this first one I'm going to show you how I might just draw the bench top alone. So I'm going to start with the end. The extrusion end, standard bench height is 900. Now if I want a bench top that is say 40 mil or 30 mil thick, so 40 mil thick, I'm going to take 40 away from 900. So what that actually means is that the extrusion starts at ground floor and I've got absolutely nothing, so it relates to the ground floor I should say. And then there's nothing until 860, and between 860 above the ground floor and 900 is my extrusion. If I have a look down here, the only other thing I might click on is the material. Now if you've loaded in the startup file or used transfer project standards from the startup file, you'll have a couple of extra options. And unfortunately there's very few nice stone benchtop options. Later on in the semester we'll be looking at making our own. Let's just have a look. I've got stuff. Oh, let's type in marble. Okay, now you can see there's a simple marble. Yeah, let's go with that one. This, if you can't see this down here, this is additional information or like a template file. So you can see that if I was to click on stone and get rid of marble down here, you can see that there's a number of choices. So if you like some of these, let's just have a look. All right, you can see I'm just pushing and pulling this around so I can see exactly what I'm getting. Okay, so that one's not a bad one, travertine. It's just taking a little moment to appear. Give it a sec, and if I like it, I need to double click on it. Is that one, travertine? Yep. Which will then appear up here in the library, so don't forget that. Looks like it was already there. And under identity, I'm going to rename it so that all the ones that I like to use are sitting under the top of the list. All right, so I've added my material. I will talk about materials later on, and there's also additional information on the YouTube channel that I've loaded other video tunes called BD3D. Extrusion end was 900, extrusion start 860, and I've nominated a material. I hit the green tick to finish my extrusion. Okay, so if I click off, you can see it looks like that. At this point, I could now do another extrusion within the family, or I could finish the model, which is what I'm going to do. So we can go and have a look at it. Having a look at my section box. Okay, you can now see I've got a bench that sits relative to the ground floor. It finishes at 900 and it starts at 860. And if I change this to a realistic view, that you can see that it's mapped an image of cream travertine to the bench top.